Alright, and we're back for a follow-up episode of TextraTox. We're going to be following up on the one we did previously with the Dungeons and Dragons and getting into it and the basics of it. Here with us today, we've got the one, the only, Atrocity, Phil. Our favorite.
What's going on, everybody?
And then in the other corner, we have the Wolf, aka Chris, who recently got a heck of a haircut. Look at that chrome dome.
I cut at least 2 of them.
At least 2 of the hairs off?
At least 2.
At least 2, okay.
Some thick hair.
It'll come back thinner than ever.
For each cut.
For each
thinner
cut.
and finer until it becomes a wire.
Hey, at least it's not like a Hydra hair, where you cut one off and 2 grow back.
I think you.
No, like I said
that.
earlier, I went reverse Super Saiyan. I went un-Super Saiyan.
Mm-hmm. You downsized yourself?
I screamed really quietly, and my hair just...
You just full on Saitan, bud.
Does that mean he's taking class levels in Monk now?
No, I didn't. Minus the push-ups and the 100 miles and the sit-ups.
All right. So I'm going to start us off with kind of what to know when you're getting yourself into a D&D group and a D&D game, because there are some expectations that are kind of standard that if you're going in blind and brand new, you may not realize that this is the thing. I mean, it's generally stated for a D&D game, all you generally need is an open mind, paper, pen, pencil, and dice. Preferably books. There is more to it than that. Phil, you had mentioned before we started the recording a thing on timing. About game times in those. It's not like a first-person shooter game or a game of Battlefield where it could run 20 to 45 minutes for a game. That is not a thing.
I would say if you're gonna compare it to like a shooter, either like a battle royale or like a free for all or.
I'm saying expectations of like one game
right.
session.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'm just saying in that respect, treat it like
a WoW raid.
Well, not just a WoW raid, but if you're gonna compare it to shooters, then just treat it like your gaming session at your nightly gaming session on Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever you play. You're gonna be in a lot of matches, and you know you are. You say you're not, then it's gonna be like 2 a.m. and you're like, oh, oops.
Just one more game.
Right.
It's 2 a.m. Yeah, and don't you have work in the morning?
D&D is a different beast entirely. It can run like what, anywhere between 3 to 12 hours, depending.
Longest game time I timestamp from start to finish, not counting the breaks in the middle, for me was 12 hours. Including breaks, I think it was more like a 10-hour game. Average that I play in is 3 to 5. The short games are 2 hours. Those are usually because of scheduling issues. Of people are either morning or late shift. So we don't get everybody on site till about like 8:30. And then we've got people on the dawn shift, so we're cutting it by like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
It also depends on who you're bringing. Like, if you're bringing a bunch of your friends, your games are going to run longer because you're going to fart around more often.
Kind of like what we do.
Yeah. If you're meeting up with people you hardly know who are just there to do D&D, you're probably going to get to the nitty-gritty, get to the point, and if your games run longer, you're at least going to accomplish more during that time.
In theory.
In theory.
I mean, we've all been in those games where one combat in the D&D game can run an hour. Just
like
doing combat.
The water world in that space movie with the spinning and the music.
Interstellar.
Yes. Like 1 year in the planet is 7 years here.
Yes.
In D&D, It's 6 seconds in the game is 3 hours in real life.
It's 6 seconds per turn equates to about 10 minutes out of game. Because, like, Chris, your turn could take, like, 5-10 minutes, and then Phil's turn could take 5-10 minutes, and then somebody else who may not know their turn could take 20.
And if you got 7 people, plus NPCs and bad guys...
It adds up really fast.
Yeah, it's
6 seconds can take 2 hours to accomplish.
Yeah.
But you just gotta make yourself conscious and aware that if when you're looking to play D&D or you want to play D&D, you just gotta give yourself that mindset that you're gonna be there for a while. So you gotta make yourself comfortable, and the more you play, of course, the more knowledgeable you get and more familiar with everything. So your turns will likely get more quicker. Depends on how much variety you'd like to try and delve yourself into, and all that.
There's a reason why whenever you see people play D&D on TV or in YouTubes or indie movies, they show up with a shitload of snacks and a bunch of 2-liters.
What was the running joke? Everybody shows up with, like, Mountain Dew and Cheetos.
Like that Keanu Reeves meme with the cyberpunk. He shows up to D&D on time with snacks.
Nobody ever shows up properly on time. Always plan for, like, if you set your start time at, like, say 7 p.m., expect that's when people think they're supposed to show up, so start time should actually be, like, 30 minutes afterwards. Which is another thing. If they say start time is, like, 7 o'clock, show up early. That is another thing I would say is, like, be aware of your timings. Show up early, and like you said, have snacks, have drinks. Like right now, I've got 2 sitting next to me. I've got soda and I've got water.
At least have a meal plan. Our group will show up around 4. We'll start doing dinner, and we'll have a big old dinner. Then we'll start D&D, and it can go to anywhere between 10 and 2 in the morning.
Yeah, one of my old groups, we would do that. Either everybody, like, because it was evening, they either picked up, like, food on the way and they ate it as we were starting the game, or somebody used the kitchen and made something for the group. Like, somebody would snag, like, a frozen pizza or 2, stick it in the oven, and we would just cook it up for the whole crew.
Little known fact, a smoker is a good synergetic thing to have with D&D.
Is that right?
Like a smoker, like to go with your barbecue pit, or someone who smokes?
No, a smoker, a meat smoker.
Meat smoker. Oh yeah, because it never takes a short amount of time.
Yeah, you show up with the meats, you put it in the smoker, you do your D&D, you take a small intermission to eat the meats, and keep going.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess.
For us.
I've never done that with a group. What we did do for an old group is we would game for like 5 hours till the game store closed, and then we left. We'd go get dinner, and then we would then go to somebody else's house after we ate dinner. I mean, we would all go to the same place, sit down, eat, bullshit, and then when we were done, we would then go to another guy's house and game for another 5 hours.
I've heard tales of people playing D&D inside of like Denny's.
I've done it at a Whataburger. 24-hour store. So yeah, done it.
They're
Definitely
slow
done
enough
it.
they probably wouldn't even care.
Oh yeah, because we finished something else we were doing, so we got there at like 10 o'clock at night. And we left at like 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning.
That was actually when 5th edition was coming out. We were beta one of the guys got in on the 5th edition beta, so he had all the beta material, and so we were just playtesting it. There was no character sheets at that point. It was just you wrote it down on paper, made it up as you went.
Completely?
well, obviously, stats and class abilities and scores and all that became the official thing were there, but there was literally no character sheet. So it's
Just a
like
napkin.
you wrote down your stats, you wrote down your skills and your health and any abilities you had, and that was what you went with. You didn't have a character sheet to figure it out. Do I have any of that over here? I think I still have one or two of the character sheets from then. Probably in the other room because I don't see it.
You know you're a veteran if all you have to do is look left and right, and you know where a D&D thing is or isn't.
All the minis are in that pile over there. I have a box of books right there, which is, you know the big boxes that all the reams of paper come in? Yeah, I've got one of those full of D&D books. And then, yeah, all the miniatures are in that pile of boxes over there, and then the dice are in the desk next to me. So, yes.
When did you start collecting stuff for that?
Which, the dice, the minis, or the books, or all of the above?
Well,
Yes.
pretty much the books. In this case, maybe if I wanted to be specific.
For books, I think I acquired my first one beginning of 2009. I didn't start playing till... I started playing December of 08. And then I actually started playing in January of 09, and I picked up my first book then, I think. So I've got... And since then, I've just picked up more and more. I think I've stopped acquiring books at this point, or at least for certain editions. You'll say 4th edition is passed on, so nobody's getting any more of those. 3.5, depending on the book, I would probably still get it. Like the Magic Item Compendium, I would probably still buy if I found one.
Mm-hmm.
I have 5th edition books, but I've stopped buying those. I refuse to buy anymore. And I have a couple of 2nd edition books. Actually, no. I have an AD&D book, and I have a 2nd edition book.
I don't have any
One other that I
books,
can't
but I have a
remember.
lot of PDFs.
Oh, if we're talking PDFs, I have somewhere probably between 120 to 150 at least.
It's a lot more than I have.
Well, I have almost 100 of just 3.5 alone.
I didn't know there were that many.
Yes. Yes. And I don't have them all. I know there's a bunch of stuff I don't have. I have probably the majority, but I know there's stuff I don't have. Like, the Ghost Walk book was a campaign based around undead. I don't have that one. I need to find that one at some point, though. But to get us back on subject a little bit.
Okay.
We wanted to mention do's and don'ts. For
Do's
new
and
players.
don'ts of gaming, as well as, like, expectations.
I think we should do do's and don'ts for players and do's and don'ts for DMs.
Yes. Let's start with players, because that one's going to make or break a game more often than the DM side will. Because you only have one DM, but you can have anywhere from 4 to 7 players. Or if you've got a really small game, maybe you've got 3. But yeah, those don't last long, in my experience.
I played a couple with only 2.
How well did that work?
It was pretty okay. We did it as kind of like a holdover, waiting to get more people in. And so it only happened once, but it was alright. I DM'd it, and I didn't have a game plan, but I really liked the game Might and Magic 6. So I just DM'd Might and Magic 6 for 2 people.
That works. I know the first full campaign I started in, that I played in, started in 09. That started with just two of us playing as we were trying to recruit more people. There was just two of us players, and we ran that way for a little while. It worked okay for us because we picked classes that were multifaceted. It can cover multiple roles at once, so that helped. But then eventually we picked up a couple more people. The other guy left, and we got a couple more people. And we ended up like a full crew of 5 or 6. And that campaign ran for 2.5 years. That was 4th edition, and we ended at like level 26. Started at level 1. And I managed to keep my character the whole time. He only died once.
My longest campaign, I actually died 3 times, but I was able to get resurrected, and then, gosh, I forget the other one, where you're brought back by a druid in a new body.
Reincarnation, or reincarnate, I think is the spell.
I was a gnome who really liked being a gnome, and I came back as an opposite gendered half-elf. I found myself in a wicked depression because of it. My character.
All things gnome are no more.
No homo, man.
You used puns like that a lot for that character, didn't you?
Actually, no, my character was spawned because I had really long hair, and I shaved it off, but before I did that, I cut it really wacky. I cut myself a bob cut with bangs, and I showed up to D&D with my hair slicked back behind my ears, and in the middle of the campaign, when nobody was looking, I just shook it all out and let it down and waited for a reaction, for people to look at me and how silly I was. And that spawned my idea for a gnome bard that is, what did I say, suspiciously handsome bard. And his name was Bobcut Goldswaith.
I love it.
And Bobcut got into a lot of shit. His only character quirk was he really did not want to die. But he also had balls of fucking steel. And eventually he did end up dead because he joined in an arena fight.
Oh no.
I was with a level 20 demigod who was carrying us, and I was with a high level something else. And I was just a bard. I was just support. I went to the bookie.
Don't put the bard in an arena fight. It doesn't work well. Trust me. I know.
I went to the bookie to bet on ourselves, and with a very, very good persuasion roll, I rolled 1 to 800 odds. So we ended up winning the fight. It costed me my life in becoming a half-elf, but in that, I think we gained something like 32 million gold.
Damn!
With these funds, we made a kingdom.
Yeah, we bought out a trade empire and spent so much time doing economy stuff that the world ended up getting invaded by undead skeletons.
Because we ignored the general plan.
Yeah.
The campaign. Oh well. Shit happens.
Which comes to a minor do and don't of playing is if you're a player, do care about the main quest, and if you're a DM, do punish stupid shit that your players do.
Yes. Encourage creativity, but punish them for their dumbassery.
I agree. Oh, I would like to comment on just sort of being from DM's standpoint, bending the rules in favor of the story. Oftentimes, yes. with my group in particular, many of them have a hard time giving 100% concentration to Dungeons and Dragons, and thus I must embellish the story, as it were.
See, with my crew, if they stop paying attention and they miss stuff, they missed it. Like, literally, I had a party member on my Monday crew that I run almost blow up the whole party and cause a cave-in. Because they're in a mine.
They didn't hear you say the disclaimer or something?
No, they did hear the disclaimer, and then they didn't pay attention because they'd missed the previous session. So I reiterated as a session recap, said everything. They're in a mine. And one of the things about mines is occasionally there's explosive or flammable gases about. So what do? Lightning bolt!
Light a torch? No, it's just good.
Lightning bolt!
What about fireball into the darkness?
Or
that's always a good one.
Or guiding bolt or something like that.
No, straight on lightning bolt. 120-foot line straight down. And hit a pocket of ignitable gas. Boom! And I was like, now I have to roll to see if this chain reacts and triggers anything else. Now I have to also roll to see if this causes a cave-in, because you were explicitly told not to do this. Alright. And then dice rolls were in their favor. It's like, well, you got lucky this time. Except that also meant that the next set of monsters knew they were coming and laid an ambush.
A campaign that I created almost got party wiped on day one. I tried to make an everyman campaign where you rolled only 3 dice with no rerolls, no mulligans, and you got to choose where the stats went. And that was it. And everybody started day 1 as a level 0 peasant. And after the first day, just the first session, everybody would become a level 1, whatever their class is. And my first dungeon was inspired by Bard's Tale with that giant fire-breathing rat. So I had them, their job was to clear a cellar of rats, a wine cellar of rats. And it was a bunch of shitty-ass rats that didn't fight back with 1 health. They were all drunk as fuck, drinking all the wine in the cellar. And they were throwing forks at them, kicking them, fucking picking them up and flinging them against the wall.
Rat flail! Rat flail!
But there was a torch that opened up a secret room down a hallway with some magical darkness. And if you walked through the magical darkness, there was, at the end of the hallway, a door. Behind that door was a very large, 40 health, fire-breathing rat. And what my party did was they found the hallway. They found, hey, it's dark, and the torches don't light it. It's some sort of magical darkness. And our paladin thinks, let's light a keg of wine on fire and roll it down the hallway.
That was actually a thought. That was actually an idea that came to my mind as well. As like, you know what? Alcohol. Open the door. Fire-breathing rat. Kick in the barrel of alcohol. Shut the door. He breath weapons, and suddenly, boom!
If the party didn't say, "Hold on, you idiot," he would have rolled a flaming barrel down at a fire-immune rat, while surrounded by multiple kegs of wine.
Well, no one said the rat was fire-immune. If the rat was not fire-immune, it would have been a perfect idea. Because it would have probably blown up the whole building.
The rat and them would have died.
To insert a little bit of context, our paladin has a history of picking characters that are most generally described as chaotic stupid.
Yeah.
And so many choices that the paladin or the ninja or whatever he may so choose, there's a general murmur of, oh, but wait, are you sure? Anytime one of his characters makes a decision. So,
and I will use that line. I will segue with that line. If the DM ever asks you, "Are you sure?"
This goes up to you, Stina said.
Immediately start contemplating your actions.
When I was a DM, I had a rule, and I told all my players, you get 1. Every session, there is 1 moment where I will ask, "Are you sure?"
Mm-hmm.
And if I say, "Are you sure?" and they decide not to do the thing, great. If they decide to do something else stupid on the same day, fucked.
See, I actually, for the most part, I've stopped doing that with my group. Because at this point, they should be well suited in their characters in the world enough to understand if they're doing something dumb or bad. And if they do something dumb, then they do so. But, yeah. To get us back on track a little bit, because... Oh, and I will point this out. As just a typical thing with D&D players, getting off track is normal and standard.
And it's fine. Like,
as long as you have the ability to put yourself back on track.
Well,
There you
like,
go.
not just that, but the DM will bring you guys back on track.
Or he'll have stuff
well,
happening, and then stuff happens, and you're like, oh,
likely
oh,
something
shit.
like shenanigans or whatever that's going on. And he'll naturally will probably just let it go by until you're like, okay, we're done with that. Let's continue on with what we're doing.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff.
A pebble falls. You take 1 damage.
Rocks
A
fall,
rock
people
falls.
die.
A rock
I mean-
falls. You take 10 damage.
Yeah, I mean,
A
of
boulder
course.
fell. Your foot's broken.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, there's no doubt, of course, that like a character death or a character injury can really bring your players back into the adventure. But you can also do silly things like minor adjustments to the battle. Oh, unfortunately, you didn't seem to notice that your boot was untied, friend. Go ahead and re-roll that reflex check. Silly things. And remind them when you do these things, but you weren't paying attention a moment ago. This.
Yeah.
I think that kind of stuff really gets people to jump back in without freaking out too much.
And one thing I will mention as a do, and this involves the paying attention aspect, keep an eye as to what not only, and this goes especially for combat, keep an eye as to what's happening as a whole, so that when it comes to your turn, you have an idea and a plan of what you're going to do. Don't wait till, oh, it's my turn? Oh, okay,
Right.
hold on,
Then you start working your brain of what you want to do and everything, and it just takes forever.
And it's like, oh, I'm gonna cast the spell, so I'm gonna do this. Well, what does the spell do? I don't know, hold on. And then you start flipping through pages, trying to find it.
Which is kind of...
With D&D, having to immerse yourself in what the world is, what your character's doing, how you want to portray it, and how you want others to portray each other and like communicate with each other and yada yada yada. Roleplay. You don't have to be the spectator audience, dude. Like so much, so delved into that so much that you forget that I'm a player too. I got to do something. All that stuff like that. Like,
I mean, sometimes there are moments where, like, let's say, I'm going to use Zach and Chris as an example. Those two are doing something crazy and dumb. Phil, there might be a moment where you and me were just going to be like, in character, go, let's take a step back and not be involved in this. So we're just going to sit back here, we're going to munch some popcorn and wait for the shenanigans to go off.
There's a moment where there could be a potential team wipe with some one of the players who's portrayed as an idiot will light a barrel on fire, like again with
and roll it down a hallway with more flammable things.
Not even roll down the hallway, just like let it go and be like, man, this flint looks so good, this wick, look at it go. And then the other players are just like maybe even laughing at it or scratching their head, like, what are you doing? They don't take the conscious mindset to say, he's lighting a barrel on fire, he's not moving it, I better step back. So the DM will likely acknowledge that, be like, guys, are you gonna do anything? No, let's see it go. And then all of a sudden it will blow up because nobody stood back. They all just got wiped. They just stared at it.
I feel like there's a...
Pay attention.
There's a do and don't. Like, for players, do understand your character. Understand what you're capable of, what your character would want to do. Like, are you a good character? Are you an evil character? Are you a chaotic character? Are you a stupid character? Are you a fun comic relief character?
Someone who's lacking in common sense.
You don't have to feel pigeonholed to play a certain way, but just know what you're going to do, what you're capable of in and outside of combat. And that kind of ties in with a DM role of don't start a campaign where you're too high level, that the people understand how much your players know about the game. If you're playing a new version of a game, like
Tailor
we were
the
playing
game
a campaign-
towards their experience levels.
Yeah, we were playing a game with Zach, and we started at level 10, and that's to get things rolling, but even I have a hard time knowing everything that my character is capable of, because I built 10 levels in like an hour or less. So I've got all these feats that stack and all these abilities that stack that I can't remember off the top of my head because I haven't been playing it for a couple of months. I've only been playing it for a week or two.
Yeah, that is.
So
yeah.
when you say know what you're going to do and don't be like, oh, flip through the books, I have to do that because I'm not fully versed in what I'm capable of.
Yeah, and sometimes that just takes spending the time outside of the game to research and study and figure out and plan it. But to a point you mentioned on the roleplay of know the character. Here's a quick do and don't. Don't take it personal. The character is not you, the person. I have seen this go so badly so many times.
Very
Yeah,
true.
like they take it to heart. Like it's a personal shot to you or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like that's not the whole thing. At
Someone-
all. Like you wrote the character like that. They wrote their character like that. So let those characters interact the way that
Yeah.
they should, and don't take it like it's going towards you.
Yeah, don't take it personal, but do follow through with what the character is. Like, let's take an example from a movie. You've got, I'm just going to randomly pull a name out of the hat. One of the Hobbit movies. You've got the dwarves. Remember the scene where they ended up with the elves and the dinner table is it's mostly plant-based? And they're all like, what the hell is this?
Green food.
Don't like green food.
Yeah,
Just try
that
it.
whole point.
Just a mouthful.
That would be a point of, like, the character's role-playing of, this is such a foreign thing, of stick to the role-play and not just go, oh, well, my character's the person who hates green, so I'm just going to eat it anyway. But why? You hate it, so why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Stick
Just
to the
to add on that,
character. I mean, even if it's
Yeah,
going to
absolutely.
involve strange and interesting roleplay, stick to it.
My gnome bard was a troublemaker, and if any one of the party wanted to bring out their backhand and smack my gnome across the face, his suspiciously handsome gnome face, I wouldn't take it personally. Bobcut probably deserved it. Bobcut's the name of my character.
Yeah. But Bobcut might be insult. It's like, you dare slap this face?
I'd pull out a lute and I'd sing some slander at him.
Yep. And that's just roleplay. I mean, stick to what the character is. Don't use the excuse of, well, it's just what my character would do, to just do whatever you want. Stick to what the character is. Like, if you're playing Bobcut, the suspiciously handsome gnome, and he's proud of his looks, he's not going to deliberately necessarily do something that's going to necessarily probably get him looking ugly. He'd probably try to
Unless I
avoid it.
die and come back as a half elf.
I mean, well, you
You
didn't
always
choose to
try
come back as a half-elf. That was random magic.
We could always try pickle Bobcut.
Pickle Bobcut? What are you going to do? Stick him in a jar and
Soak
pickle
him in
him?
vinegar. Yeah.
Well, I believe he's currently blue, is he not? We could make him green.
Yeah, I decided to be the target of a, what's that wand called?
Rod of Wonder.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Oh, no. Wild magic.
It turned-
no.
it turned- It turned me permanently blue. Dabba-dee dabba-die.
Well, my character on Fridays is blue naturally, so... He's a water ganassi, as such. He also tries, because he's tied to the element of water, he avoids fire. He specifically got himself, like, fire resistance, and avoids, like, fireballs. Like, That's a wall of fire. I'm going this way, away from it.
He's like the
Temperature in the
Hound.
room's rising. I'm gonna leave.
You're like
It
the
sort
Game
of
of Thrones
reminds
Hound.
me. Yeah.
Stick,
Sort of
just as a
reminds me
dude,
of,
stick to the character, even if it slightly screws you.
Yeah. I have many troubles with my Tabaxi Storm Sorcerer, who just happens to have a phobia of water.
Oh no!
So that's always a fun time.
There was a movie. I think it was Gamers 2: The Darkness Rising. Have you forgotten your paralyzing fear of water? And then you just cut to the scene for the character. He just puts his hands on his face and goes, "Ah!" They're like, "Yeah, we can just cross over. We do this. Do this. Did you forget your paralyzing fear of water?" Ding!
World-ending scream.
Yeah. Well, then the
I'd
barbarian
forgotten
has.
until just now, Dick.
It's well, he refused to do anything involved. He was freaking out, so they're like, "All right, we'll just knock him out and we'll just carry him across." So they rolled to knock him out. Unfortunately, the fighter misjudged his strength and rolled a critical, and instead of like just hitting him at the right point to just knock him out, he hit him so hard he broke the guy's neck. And it's like, great! Now what do we do? It's
like the Venture Brothers when Speedy gets killed by Brock Samson in the beginning, and all the other henchmen, his allies, like trying to figure out what to do with him because he's in a death grip in Brock's hands when he's knocked unconscious, and they can't get him out of the grip, so he's choking to death. And they're like, "So now what?" And so they shoot him with the tranq gun and they knock him out so he can just suffocate quietly. It zooms out with this zooms out with this Mexican Hispanic music, like a Mexican showdown music, like when it's ending. And one of the characters with the monotone voice is like, "Wow, that sucked."
Yeah. Although I will admit it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, so I might be getting the scene slightly wrong, but they did try to knock him out and screw it up somehow. There was also a scene where the fighter, the gates are shut and they have to get inside, so he grabs hold of the gate, tries to lift, and he just fails his strength check, and he's just like, and there goes his back. It's like, oh, ow, ow, ow.
Goes.
Yeah, it's like his back just goes crack. It's like he just popped his back in the wrong place. He's like, ow, ow, ow. And the rogue walks up. It's like, I got this. It's like, your strength is trash, man. It's like, it's higher than the wizard's. And so he makes his check, and then nat 20s just throws it open. He's like,
of course.
You lift with the legs as an insult to the fighter. It's like, really?
Hey man, anything is possible with a nat 20 and a good attitude.
Right?
Yeah, look at Chris.
I almost
and hence the reference of just roll with it.
Yeah, bad decisions almost party wiped my DM campaign on day one, and a series of nat 20s on my part and nat 1s on Zach's part.
Ooh.
We almost beat the BBEG on day one of Zach's campaign.
Oh, such a frustrating day.
I remember that.
How about this? Final boss fight for the final session of the campaign. My character gets it's against a very powerful lich, and my character just gets dead. And I'm like, all right, that happened. Made it to the end. Died to the BBEG. I'm okay with this. The NPC picks up my weapon, which is Mesa Disruption. And one of the things it does is when you hit undead with it, they have to make a save or get poofed into a cloud of dust.
Mm-hmm. Love disruption.
First attack, misses. Next round, swings again, hits. The boss can only fail on a 1 on the dice. Rolls. Poof! So the NPC, run by the DM, kills the BBEG on like round 4 of combat.
Bum, bum,
It was just like, and we were all like, wow! The worst part, the DM was the one who recommended I get that Mesa Disruption in the first place.
It sort of reminds me of the salt of just having your character one-shot by a random NPC. My very first D&D 3.5 character was a telepath. Specifically the telepath that relies on charisma to melt or hinder the mind, right? Ran into this arch-wizard of a school, properly named Fromage. We were delivering a giant thing of cheese. We were a part of this crew. I believe Wolf mentioned we had acquired a kingdom by then.
Oh yeah, the mercantile stuff.
Not yet.
No,
This
not
is the
yet.
Bobcut campaign, but this was pretty early.
Okay. So we come upon this school and we make this giant cell of cheese to Wizard Fromage, arch-wizard of this
Jeez.
school. Yes.
What are you guys doing?
Yes.
This is the shenanigans
our-
that can happen in D&D game.
Yeah,
There
it's
is
a kid.
no
It's
rules,
just
no
why I'm
restrictions.
laughing.
Unlike like computer games where it's like you have to do this. No, anything goes.
Anything goes.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, especially 3.5, where I mean, you can just literally do anything, and it's all.
Same with Pathfinder. You can pretty much do anything.
Yeah, that's
Is-
great.
Zach's Scion talks shit to an Archmage.
That's a good way to get polymorphed into a squirrel.
Oh, my end was much better.
The Archmage, run by the DM, didn't like the fact that Zach said one too many snarky things like "I'm better than you."
Well,
Cast
the Archmage had an issue with telepaths or sorcerers in specific. He hired our necromancer, and then said, "No, sorcerers aren't real magic wielders. They just get their stuff, randomly."
Well,
So-
to be fair, that is kind of a in-game general rivalry between like wizards and sorcerers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That dates back
yeah.
decades.
It's the old D&D Star Trek Star Wars thing that's going on between the sorcerers and the wizards and all that.
Yeah.
his Scion took to the challenge. Imagine the freshman going up to the professor and being like, "Yeah, I know more about nuclear science than you, bitch." And then,
Oh no.
and then
No.
The Archwizard, I think in this order, rolled higher initiative.
In
Cast-
this
Yep.
order.
Yep.
Cast Time Stop.
Oh
Yep.
no.
Cast, I forget the name of it. It's like a giant magical fist. Do you remember the name of it?
Big
the
Feet Striking
greatest
Fist?
version- It was the greatest version of Mage Hand, the one that can like squeeze and slap and slam.
was
Yeah,
a
it's one of the Bigsby's
it was a
hand
level
spells.
10 heightened mage
Giant
hand.
purple hand.
He took this giant ethereal hand, wrapped it around his character,
Oh boy, yeah.
turned his skull into paste,
Mhm, mhm.
and then prestidigitated all of his remains out the window into the lake.
He destroyed the head, and then I believe the term was incinerated the rest.
Disintegrate.
You were a puddle.
digitized the puddle of goo that was left out the window and
He
down
Alex
into
Macked
the bay.
you.
Oh yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
the guy-
wow.
Mhm. He's
See,
dead.
And
My party
That's
on
the-
Monday has been smart. They work for a guy who says he's a dragon. Nobody knows if he is or not. Everybody just immediately takes his word for it because they realize there's a lot about this guy that's slightly off. He's got way too many powerful people working for him, and nobody talks back to him at all. So,
Well, funny
this
enough-
guy's probably pretty powerful. And then they run across a Fae who was like, wait. You said what to him? Oh yeah, we did this and that. And you're still alive, how? And that was the party's first clue of, uh-oh.
funny enough, Zach's character dying at that moment is what led him to play a wormling dragon that we had just previously rescued.
Aww.
That dragon turned into a I don't even know what
I
elder
believe
god.
I believe it's currently considered a elder. Whatever's
Colossal?
bigger than colossal. It's like a moon size, but elder arch dragon lord.
Well, Colossal, I believe, is a 6x6 space minimum. Or no, gargantuan, I think it is.
So what's the
I think-
size of a small moon?
Gargantuan.
There you go.
It has a
That's the
minimum
one.
size, but doesn't have a maximum.
Yeah.
It has
So
a minimum
picture-
size of like a 6x6 on the board, but its maximum, there is no max. It can be as big as it needs to be.
Yes. The size of this creature, we ended up just giving up on the math and rolling the dice. My standard physical attack, if it hit, which, believe me, was rather easy with most targets, we just went ahead and rolled out it was a standard 200 flat damage.
Yeah.
It's pretty
So,
fantastic.
as a note to anyone watching and that will be watching this later, with D&D, stuff can get really crazy really fast. There will also have a lot of times where shit is just boring.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it
reminds me
is
of a do and
dictated
don't.
on what you, the players, decide to do. Because the DM, well, he does guide and storytell. Most of it is decided by the players.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
What's your do and don't, Zach?
That do and don't was for the DM specifically. The do would be to try and keep role playing in combat balanced as possible. And of course, the don't would be try not to delve too deeply into just role playing or just combat. For the most part, like everything comes naturally. If everybody's having a good time and everybody's equally invested in paying attention, the funny parts, the serious parts, all of those happen naturally for the most part. And
or they
everybody's
happen by
absolutely
dice rolls, and you're
enjoying
like, oh god.
Mm-hmm. And the dice rolls, of course. A little bit of luck is always going to be a
Oh.
part of D&D. But yeah, that really helps everybody enjoy their time more, I think.
There's a do for both players and DMs, and that is be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So like the DM should. I had to step down from DMing. I was DMing from a little while, and work got overwhelming where I couldn't do extracurricular planning, and I had to hand off the campaign to somebody else to do it for a while because I just couldn't sit down and map out new quests for a new zone as the party was traveling. I wouldn't want to be that guy who has to wing it as a DM and have no honest to God direction for the party.
Now, I will say, on that for be prepared, have a plan, there are many different styles of DMing. There are those that are super prepared for everything, those that are mostly ad-lib, and those that find a good balance. In my opinion, you should always be somewhere around the middle of have a good balance. Because no matter how much you prepare, the dice are going to do something, or the players are going to do something, and it's never going to be what you expect them to do.
This is very true.
You have to be able to ad-lib and just go off the top of your head and fly by the seat of your pants
Like,
because
you'll have
shit's going to
this,
happen.
you'll
I think-
have like maybe top 3 or 5 best case scenario dialogues in your head on what's to be said, and you can take Chris and Zach's as a example when Chris as a player versus Zach as a DM. Those scenarios can happen, and you just gotta roll with it, man. Roll with it.
Either roll by dice or roll by roleplay.
It
It's
helps for
roleplay.
the party to
Roll.
know what kind of DM you're rolling with, because Zach is a very story heavy DM. He likes the theater of the mind. He likes the flair. And
Now,
the
I will have to ask, are you talking traditional theater of the mind, where there really isn't a board, you don't use minis as much, or are you talking or what? Because that's the theater of the mind I've always encountered over the years.
For example, when I was DMing, I like theater of the mind where combat shouldn't be 100%. I swing my sword. Like the example I used was, say you're fighting 3 snakes. Are you just gonna turn as a level 1 fighter? Are you gonna spend every turn, I swing my sword, I swing my sword, I swing my sword? Or are you gonna apply some theater of the mind? Okay, I want to grab this snake by the tail and fucking whack these other snakes on the head and try to do a 2-for-1.
I would say that would fall under roleplay creativity and not necessarily just theater of the mind. If you want to get creative and do stuff like that, alright, let's see if it works.
See if it works. Roll your dice.
But that's definitely the whole thing of players are going to be creative and do stuff you don't expect, so you're going to have to be like, okay.
That's where the dice come in. The more creative you get, the more rolls you get to do. And hey, guess what? If you make all of those rolls, your character is going to do some fantastic shit.
Oh yeah, I've seen
some... If it doesn't,
some...
then fantastic things are going to happen either way.
Oh yeah, I've seen some dice rolls where things went awesome. And then I've seen some where it was like, the dice rolls started happening and all the players are like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
The whole table gets that look on their face of like, oh no, this is going to go so badly, oh god.
There's a word that comes to mind here, and that word is Vorpal.
Oh boy.
That is essentially the end result of Vorpal was what kind of happened, but not through that exact method. In 3.5, there exists a rule of insta-kill.
Yeah.
And this can be done one of two ways.
Triple 20s.
Triple 20 or massive damage that you fail to save against. In this case, it fell under the triple 20 rule, which was you roll a 20, critical threat, roll to confirm. Second 20, roll to confirm for insta-kill. Did so. Now, do you want to know what the problem with this was? This was level 1 characters against rats.
Oh.
A rat with 1 HP insta-kill.
2 HP actually, but yes. It was just one of those of like, oh my god, because we had the little base rats and then giant rats. And it was the little base rat which can only do 1 point of damage maximum. 20, and we were like, oh no. Confirms were like, oh god. Because it was against the guy with the highest AC too.
When I do,
and it was just, it runs up his sword, dives into his chest, just burrows into his chest. He's just convulsing, blood splattering everywhere, and he falls to the ground and is dead. And everybody's like, what the heck?
Wait, the rat killed the player?
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes! now you're getting it. Two characters literally ended up with trauma involving rats that ever came to fighting rats. They're like, yep, we're gone. Bye!
So for anybody unfamiliar, Vorpal, the term that was used just a moment ago, it's a potent and feared ability according to 3.5. It allows the weapon to sever the heads of those it strikes.
If it confirms
of a natural 20. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a slashing weapon. And any creatures like golems or undead creatures like vampires or oozes, they don't really get affected by the loss of their heads. So, but Vorpal is pretty awesome. You don't have to do those extra 20s.
Yeah, it's just one of those of like, it's confirmed. Insta-kill. Bye! Off with his head.
Yep, he's dead. Moving on.
In this case, it was, I don't remember if it was rat to the chest and it just burrowed through and got that, if it was rat to the jugular. But yes, it was the little bitty rat of like 2 HP and could do 1 point of damage. Got an insta-kill on the person with the highest AC. It was...
Goodness me.
So... Dice could be also...
Did it look like that?
Dice rolls can just be anything crazy. You never know what's going to happen. You're just going to have to deal with it.
By chance, did it happen to look like that rabbit from Holy Grail?
Oh, the Vorpal bunny?
Probably.
Oh,
Killer rabbit.
Jesus Christ!
That's no ordinary rabbits.
Well,
it's got a huge.
The most ridiculous thing that went with it is literally the next player that got to attack also had an insta-kill roll.
Woo!
Against said rat.
Sometimes it's like the wheel of luck turns. It's just like there's this cascade of criticals that happens.
Well, the craziest thing is both me and the DM, I'd been playing for like over... At that point, I'd been playing for 10 years. He'd been playing for over 15. Neither of us had ever seen back-to-back insta-kill triple 20s like that. It was the first time either of us had ever seen it.
Let me pull up a calculator.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a hell of a chance.
Yeah, because it was a
Right.
2020 and then an 18 and a 2020
.0,
like
0.05.
16. But it was just like, it was insane. I was like, this should
Right.
not happen.
The chance of that happening is 0.00000015625. So we're talking
2, 4,
Isn't that 1 in 10,000
2,
at least?
4, 2.
that's 1%.
This episode
That's
was poorly written.
0.1%.
2, 4.
It's a 0.00000 0.50's 15%.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10.
Out of
10,
100.
100,000, 10,000, 100,000. That's 1 in a million?
1 in 100,000, 10,000, 100,000, million, 10 million. 1 in 100 million.
Chance.
Damn.
Just for reference, I
That's-
believe the odds of being struck by lightning once in your life is 1 in 15,300.
Oh, shut the fuck up. You were struck by lightning.
So that is an interesting statistic.
Yeah, but hey,
That's
that just
why I know that statistic, by the way.
that just goes to show anything can happen with dice rolls. And I will say this, as someone who's experienced this, roleplay can get you killed faster and more efficiently than dice combat will.
But it will do so with pizzazz.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, but executions are a thing.
You remember our Paladin aforementioned Chaotic Stupid?
Correct, yes.
Well,
Which
the
is hilarious because
campaign
paladins are lawful.
The campaign that I was running, I had the whole first 4 levels in the town all mapped out, and there were high level zones, low level zones. They showed up to a null camp once and found out, oh, we're not ready for this, we better retreat. They leveled up some, they came back to the null camp. Now they're just outside the camp. They sneaked in. They knew from last time that there were watchers outside the camp, and they took care of the problem. And they're coming up with a plan. And the druid's like, I can cast entangling roots upon the encampment to keep the gnolls at bay who are going to come out the huts like they did last time.
I would like to point out that at this point, my halfling is hiding securely in the carriage.
Yeah, there's a
Love it.
carriage that the paladin is charioting, and the druid and a couple others are outside on the ground, and they're coming up with a plan, let's do this, let's do that. And the paladin goes, boarding, onward! And he mushes the 2 horses, Patsy and Patsy, into the null encampment, just as the druid's turn was next, who didn't know what the fuck he was doing and decided to do what he planned to do anyway because he was true neutral and whatever. Cast Entangling Roots. So I had both of the horses roll to resist the roots. One horse, Patsy, passed. The other horse, Patsy, failed. So naturally, the carriage did a very sharp turn.
Halfling failed his acrobatics check.
Yeah, the halfling ended up slamming against the side of the thing after doing a boast. He was like, I'm the greatest...
I am the greatest wham against the wall.
Yeah.
I am the greatest wall slammer. Watch me wall slam.
Then all of a sudden, there were 2 horses, a wizard with 3 fucking strength,
Such
in a
potent
carriage.
death sound.
and a paladin in a driver's seat in the middle of an entangled encampment, trapped on the spot, surrounded by 5 huts that are slowly leaking kobolds.
I would like to point out that
I know the solution to this.
Is it fire?
Fireball! Solution is always fireball if you're the wizard. Or magic
At this
missile.
point, the halfling did make his nat 20, and he used his wonderful charisma to stand up and say his name, introductory style, and say, greatest wizard, and then he cast his spell, which did not do very well.
He rolled really well, so he went, behold, bro! He got slammed as the horse got, caught and the carriage flipped. and then he rolled a nat 20 for recovery. So it in real time, the carriage is going up, and the mage thinks, we're going to go in, and I'm going to cast spells upon that kobold over there. And he goes, behold, and hits the thing, goes down, old, casts lightning, and fucking evaporates it.
Oh yeah, that kobold died pretty quick. I was so satisfied. Oh my. And then I got conked on the head, I believe.
No, club to the head?
You hit on the carriage for a while the gnolls were like trying to destroy it to get to you.
Did they go clubbing and use and specifically targeting your head?
Well, I said gnolls and kobolds. I can't remember what they were.
It was sort of like that scene. You may recognize the movie titled Willow.
Yes.
It was like being a brownie on the carriage with dudes climbing on it and trying to hit me.
Yeah, that wood was falling apart, but luckily the rest of the party came to...
Honestly, I keep thinking Willow was based off a D&D game, but how much shenanigans were involved in that movie.
I mean, the main character's real name is Warwick Davis. Come on. Of course it is.
The actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got Val Kilmer in there, too.
He'll be your Huckleberry.
I mean, that movie was so hilarious. But yeah, there's actually been a lot of movies that were based off D&D, too.
Totally. You've got your human fighter. You've got your human warrior. You've got your halfling caster. What is sorcerer?
Yep.
Lord of the Rings is totally a D&D session where it started with a bunch of people and then they had to split up because of schedules. So they had individual campaigns.
Yeah, there you go. Frodo and Sam are just like the gamer nerds who are at school, so they have to come on the weekends.
Why didn't they take the Eagles into Mordor? Because the DM was not a fucking idiot.
There you go. Because exactly, the DM knows how to keep
because they would also probably get a volley of arrows to the face and get shut down.
Yeah,
and then you take falling damage.
The bats and the wyvern riders.
Yeah, it's like, aerial combat, where if you fail your check, you fall off. You now take 20d6 fall damage because you're a few hundred feet up. Splat.
Why didn't they take the Eagles? I'll tell you why. They came from behind!
Came from behind!
And above. And below.
They're coming out of the goddamn walls!
with arrows with arrows to the face. Hey, it could be worse. Could have been an arrow to the knee.
Hey, that's how come hobbits don't do traveling, because the fat one that shot a goblin head into the hole got an arrow in the knee.
Yep. So, so D&D can be a lot of fun. It can be boring. Although I will say, for adults, this is one that's recently become kind of an issue for some of the games I'm in, is that don't deliberately set up characters that you know are going to have problems with others. Like, playing an evil character is okay, but try to avoid playing evil asshole.
Yes.
Because it just results in a lot of conflict, and then can chain off and result in PvP. And generally my recommendation is, if you ever can, as the DM, avoid PvP from happening, do so. Because that can actually, and I've seen it happen, destroy a campaign. Of just the party infighting and problems just keeps going and going till the campaign self-destructs.
I've seen a meme in the past that was like, oh, so you rolled a character that doesn't want to go on an adventure. That's cool. Why don't you roll one that does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those of like, if you're going to be an antagonistic asshole who as a boomcaster, doesn't care if you frag your own party members, don't be surprised if they don't help you, or if one of them gets tired of you and they're not good aligned and they murder you in your sleep. Or they leave you to die against something else. So...
My character, speaking of fall damage, my gnome, Bobcat, Mr. Infamous, he didn't...
All my stuff.
He didn't... He was a bit of a troublemaker, and he was comic relief, but even though he caused trouble and sometimes more trouble than he helped, he was still helpful enough that the party would try to
Tolerate him?
save him. Yeah, they would try to save him if he was endangered. And like I said earlier, when that trade empire got so big that we ended up ignoring the campaign to the point where evil and undead skeletons were invading like half the planet, and I'm talking massive amount, like an entire continent covered in skeletons. Bobcut was like, "Hey, I got big balls. Hold my beer." And I jumped off of Zach, who was a dragon. I rode him around a lot, and my goal.
Damn, he used you as a mount, dude.
My
No,
goal.
You got demoted to
He
mount.
he would dimension door to stand upon my dragon's head, and
No,
at that
you're
point,
thinking of the wrong character.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, I would just hop
okay.
up there
Okay.
because you had horns. It was like a handle.
Handlebars.
But I jumped off of him into the thing. I think I planned on casting a spell on my way down,
Probably Featherfall.
but no, like a destructive spell, like a hurdy spell.
Oh.
And I think it fizzled, or I failed. I failed a roll, and instead I ended up just my body created a crater. So I got to roll how many skeletons I killed with my fall, ploomf. And it wasn't many, but the roll for me dying, I didn't die. I was unconscious, but I didn't die.
You got lucky.
This was the cool point at which we found out that we were not going to be able to continue doing my dragon's rolls all the time, because the dragon then decided we have to save Bobcut. So it did a massive dive, I believe from about 1,000 feet up, because the rest of the group was floating behind us in a dainty little flying ship. And so the dragon folds his wings and drops. And we ended up doing the math. TLDR, it was the dragon, who was colossal at that point, transformed his body with iron flesh. So we weighed out. A colossal dragon is this big. This much flesh for a dragon this size weighs this much. This much flesh that weighs this much whenever it is turned into iron. And I believe the end result was I believe
15,000?
it was 15 kilotons. Yeah.
15,000 skeletons died in that?
Well, we hit.
Well, here's the thing. How did you not kill Bobcut with your earth-shattering curse splat?
Well, I believe we had our warlock. Our warlock yoinked him or shielded him in some way.
Just in time for the
It was so long
meteor
ago,
strike
I
of a
don't
dragon.
remember.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I believe he yoinked him out of there because the dragon was also his original class was cleric of the destruction class.
Oh no!
So there was.
I am the
there was
smash.
an 8th level. There was an 8th level lightning storm also falling as the dragon was falling. So it was pretty epic.
Yeah,
All-
and that's the
all
thing.
to
Once you
say
get high
Bobcat-
level, you can get epic stuff. Although I've also seen some epic shenanigans at lower levels too. So, to get us back on track a little bit because we're running a little long. The number one thing I would say is, don't take it too serious. Have fun. Pay attention. Don't be an asshole about it.
And let the DM point out the things that you can and cannot do, and what you pretty much just be the rule guide. Pretty much. Don't as a player try to like.
The DM has the ultimate say.
Point out the things and try to correct people and try to be the know-it-all person. Like that's the
Rules,
DM.
yeah,
The DM
rules
has
lawyers
the
tend to be
discretion.
hated for a reason.
Yeah, DM has the discretion to have those rules and even bend them a bit.
Yeah.
If need be. Don't be that person to be like, oh well, you can't do this. And
Now, you can always point
shouldn't
out
do
the
that.
rule, and if the DM decides, I'm not using that, accept that, go, okay, don't try to argue because the DM wins.
Additionally,
Right.
I'd like to point out that for myself as a DM, and I'm sure it goes with any of you who also DM, I am absolutely open to questions. If you want to figure out what you can do better or what I can do better, hey, ask, because eventually, what's going to happen is everybody's going to enjoy the game more. That's the ideal situation.
Be
And the worst
creative,
case
ask
scenario
questions.
is we'll get a little bit more confused. Be creative, ask questions. Absolutely.
And
There's
if you're
so,
new, don't be afraid to ask questions repeatedly. It's the only
Mhm.
way you'll learn.
It takes a while.
there's a good step for like, okay, it's good for the party to understand what kind of DM they're rolling with. Like Zach really likes the story and the embellishment and the purpose. Like he's writing a book when you're playing his game. I like to go by bare bones. I like the simpler rules. I like the creativity in there. And then we've got Arthur, the one who plays the chaotic stupid one when he's DMing. He's more of a hack and slasher. So if when I played a bard, I didn't get a whole lot of opportunity for diplomacy, but I didn't know that going into it. I would
Yeah.
have picked a more combat centric character knowing that it was going to be a more combat centric campaign. So
For
it's
me,
good to know
yeah.
before you start what kind of DM and what kind of campaign you're going to be running.
Especially the campaign. And if you have questions on it, ask repeatedly so that you don't end up like me. And I actually had a campaign that I had to walk away from because the DM decided to be extraordinarily strict on spellcasters with spellbooks. We were on a sea-based adventuring campaign, and I had said, okay, I'm going to be running a spellbook, doing this, that, and the other. Is there going to be any problems now or in the future with doing this? He told me no. It wasn't until later on that I found out that with him, if you have a spell book, you cannot gain spells unless someone teaches it to you or you find it as a scroll and can copy it over. Otherwise, you cannot gain extra spells.
That's a major game changer, for sure.
Yes, and we're on a campaign based aboard a ship, and we are low-ranking crew members, and magic scrolls are not just going to be handed out to low-ranking crew members. And I'm one of the few spellcasters on board ship that uses a spellbook. I'm like one
Better
of
make
two.
friends with a rogue.
Yeah.
And by the time we hit level 3, I still had not advanced any spells at all.
Jeez.
Yeah,
And the DM was giving no flexibility, wasn't trying to work with it. It was like, nope, this is how it is. It's like, but you didn't tell me going in. Too bad, this is how it is. Suck it up, deal with it.
yeah, the players should know the DM, and the DM also should know the players. Like, if you've got a party, know what your party's made of. If your party doesn't have a cleric or a rogue, don't make a dungeon that's like 95% fucking locked doors and traps.
Yeah. Well, most clerics actually don't even have anti-trap abilities.
I mean, for healing, because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
going to have no rogue to detect. You're going to have minimal ability to detect, to disarm, and then everybody's going to get hurt and nobody's going to get healed.
And even if the party does have a rogue, if the rogue is a social aspect rogue, who is spec towards that and has like no anti-trap ability, because that's not the style of rogue they are, have an understanding of that.
Yeah, you don't have to pander to the team, but you should tailor your encounters for what will be most fun for your players that will utilize the most of what they have to offer.
Yep, definitely pattern what all is happening towards the group, and that's got to be adaptability on the fly. You've got to learn to be able to adapt and work with that.
Yep.
So yeah, like you said, don't be throwing heavy trap stuff when you've got a group that can't do anything about traps.
For when I was DMing, it was one of my first times DMing. There was one character in our party who is just a bare bones, nothing but fighter, like a min-maxed fighter. Had no say in any kind of charisma conversations, didn't participate in anything diplomatic. So I liked the roleplay aspect because I was missing that when I was a player in the previous campaign. So I kind of embellished the roleplay a little too much until I realized, all right, we need to do more fighting because I've got a couple people here who don't fucking talk. They only fight.
Yeah. Well, the trick as the DM is then find stuff to get those characters involved more. Sometimes you've got the characters that are they're kind of just not the social aspect, so sometimes you have to try to find a way to force the role player, the social aspect of what is something these guys would get involved in. What is a way to get them involved in something instead of they sit there and twiddle their thumbs for half the game session because the party's doing roleplay and they're the warrior who smashes.
Yeah, I set a trap near the end where right before I handed off my campaign when I started getting busy. They ended up in a castle that they never should have been in, that never should have existed, but somebody rolled a nat 20 on an insight check sometime, and like their guess became reality. Like, oh, this is a map of Karak Ligma, the ancient sunken city, and they rolled a 20, which meant now all of a sudden there exists a place called Karak Ligma that is a sunken city full of treasures. And they ended up beelining off the main course to go to this place. And of course, I put a bunch of traps and bullshit in this place. And the warrior didn't have anything to fight, but he had a library full of books of combat, and one called How to Kill a God. And he opened it, this cursed book, and it flashed light, and he became permanently blinded.
Rip.
There was some salt there.
He had blind fight. He could do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
that warrior very angrily killed some things in the end.
But that's adaptability. You have to adapt the campaign to the players. Sometimes the players give you great ideas and they curse themselves for it.
As currently on the campaign that I'm running, somehow or another, everybody managed to get a very, very acrobatic creature, person. Ninja, I believe one is literally an acrobat or something like that. But everybody does amazing, tremendous athletic and acrobatic feats. And so most of the campaign stuff that I have to do is specifically tailored to give these people chances to utilize their amazing features and their amazing ability to get from point A to point B in a parkour fashion, you know.
And then it's always entertaining when they fail. It's like, wait, you're the guy with this great ability and you couldn't jump 5 feet?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's also fun because some of them don't have, it's really nice as a DM to remember which of your players chose what as their dump stat. You know, oh, the ninja, oh man, he's so fantastic at running and jumping and getting around my traps and obstacles. But a simple charm spell will handle that.
Yep. Or my character in Thursdays has the lowest wisdom of the party. Very knowledgeable and highly skilled in combat, tactics, strategy. Absolutely horrible common sense when it comes to like social clues and aspects because she doesn't understand it. That wisdom, that knowledge of how all that works, doesn't have it.
Please be patient.
It just doesn't know how to do it. It's just, so she tends to like, all right, you're the charismatic one. You're gonna be the face of the party. I'll be in charge when it comes to combat because I know how to do that. You be the one that keeps us from getting into trouble or talks us through that, which works until it doesn't. And then my character's like, great, I have to step up and do this. This sucks. Okay. So all I know how to be is super polite and logical, which can annoy the shit out of a lot of people. Okay. Let's go. This does work. Yeah. I pissed off I pissed off several royal individuals of a city because they kept doing stuff to try to get us to screw up. Except my character is the polite and logical one, and for some reason I got picked to have to deal with her. So every attempt to start something automatically failed because my character's like, no, I'm not going to rise to the bait. I'm not going to do this, not going to do that. Why? Why would I? What's the point of it? You're trying to elicit an emotional response from someone who operates off of logic.
I do not feel anger, Captain.
Oh, no. That character can go angry, but when does so, goes angry like a barbarian rage.
Oh, super fun.
Which is terrifying when you're also a powerful spellcaster who mixes that with your melee abilities.
I feel like I'm having a hard example thinking of something that a character with very high intelligence and very low wisdom would do. And I'm thinking something like you run into a bartender that's running low on beer. The character is very intelligent and they're like, oh, hops and water make beer. So they order 6 metric tons of hops and water cash on delivery to the bar. But the bar is just a bar, it's not a fucking brewery.
And then they
What
can't
are they
make
gonna do
it.
with
Yeah.
hops and water?
Right? Alright, we have run very long, and I have no doubt we can continue longer because this is the nature of gamers when they get together. So, quick run through of the cast and crew for this. Zach, you hopped on a little late due to some scheduling issues, but thanks for hopping
evening.
in.
Hello. Thank you very much. I'm
Thanks
glad
for
to be
joining
here.
us. As mentioned before, we have the one and only terrifying atrocity that is Phil. Or Phil that is the atrocity. I don't know how you want to word that.
You can just go like
Atro City.
you can just go like what Drumo does. It's like the atrocious one or atrocity. It's atrocity. That's how you pronounce it.
Feel free to call me the DemonBynx or DemonBynx or Binks.
The Binksy Demon.
Binksy Demon has also been known as a moniker.
Yeah.
Pinksy.
And then we have the Wolf, aka Chris,
Minksy Winksy.
who is also apparently now going to be our resident Chrome Dome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It even shines when you get the light on it just right.
The chromest of domes.
Put some polish on it.
So shiny, so chrome.
Yep.
Mr. Wolf, Mr. Wolf.
I'll put some shoe wax on there next week. Months from now, I'll have the cancers.
Are you gonna have like? You should use like one of the different colored ones though. Like you could just like use like a deep auburn color.
Yeah, I don't have hair to dye. I just have a scalp to tint.
Yeah, the top of your scalp
Go
should
for
just
it.
be like this weird tinted, like leather-looking color.
Go for it. Whatever works. And then, of course, I am Redneck Alcatraz, also go by Adam. And this has been the follow-up episode of TextraTox episode 1, which was Dungeons & Dragons. To everyone who will be watching and listening to this and does so, thank you. Please check us out on YouTube, Spotify, all the podcast platforms that we're on, which is a multitude. We're all over the place. We even have a website running now, so check that out as well. So, thank you everyone, and we will see y'all next time.
Why? Good night.
Thank you to all the beautiful people.
Bye. Have a wonderful time.